Ashley Carabetta is going to talk to us a little bit about her work. We heard sort of a prelude to it when we heard Mickey's talk earlier today. Ashley's originally from Dallas, Texas, but she completed her degree at Stony Brook University in New York, majoring in biology. And before coming to SIO, she worked in New York City, doing a variety of fisheries-related research and at the Wildlife Conservation Society. So Ashley, without further ado, I will let you take it from here.
It's a great welcoming. All right, thanks everyone for being here, especially still at 4:30 if you've been here since the morning. So I'm going to talk to you about my idea to expand ocean awareness through the use of large-scale photomosaics. And that starts with images. Images are powerful. They help tell a story. They invoke emotion. They inspire. They help us to understand and to learn. Our vision is the most active of our senses, and our brains are wired to respond quickly to images. The use of images in science helps people feel involved and engaged. When I saw this image for the first time, I was captivated. This is a 3D digitization of a coral reef. The plot you're looking at here is about the size of the wall you see behind me. Throughout my presentation, you'll hear me refer to them as photomosaics. My advisor, Dr. Stuart Sandin, and his lab are collecting and using these images to monitor the growth of coral reefs and to understand their dynamics. That helps set the mood, thanks. So what we want to know from looking at this as what species are placed next to each other, how are they interacting, who are the winners and losers, and how does this all change over time with different environmental and human impacts? The reason we look at it on a large scale like this is so that being able to understand it from that size is being able to understand their dynamics better from a whole ecosystem perspective, which can help us better protect them for the future. But I wanted to do something different with them because images are powerful, and I think something like this can reach a much broader audience and help people take a step closer to ocean stewardness and ocean awareness. But let's go back and go through the process of how to actually make one of these. Once at location, there's a bit of this underwater ballet that goes on. The diver on the left has a rig set up with 2 DSLR cameras, while the diver on the right is helping him calibrate the camera. Then there's a diver below helping set up the area that we're going to monitor. Once the area is set up, the diver with the camera rig swims a pattern through that area, taking images, while the other diver or divers take measurements, which helps with calibration later. When all is said and done, a 100 square meter plot about the size of this wall can take anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes, yields 15 to 2,500 pictures, and although only 2 divers are needed, as you can imagine now, it's a little bit easier with 3. So now that you have all your images, those need to go get taken back to the lab where they're uploaded to a high-performance computer, and we work with structural engineering and computer science departments at UCSD to essentially stitch these thousands of images together. This process takes about 1 to 2 weeks. It's a little time-intensive. So those stitched together images now create 2 versions. You get a 2D model, and you get a 3D model. This 2D model is called an ortho projection, and this is a bird's eye view of the reef. So imagine you're standing about in the middle of the room looking at the section of this wall. It can be viewed just like a regular picture, albeit a much larger one. The 3D model is visualized through special software developed by one of our colleagues and can have anywhere from 500 million to 1 billion points of information in it. Needless to say, there have been some technical hurdles. So now at that point, these cohesive images need to get analyzed. And the reason we do this is so that from a digital analysis, we can look at all the different dynamics of the reef and again ask those scientific questions. How are they interacting? How much area is this coral covering? So students in the lab spend a long time going through this, and you're looking at this bird's eye view again, and this is what it looks like when we essentially are color coding these corals by different species. To give you a better look, this is a close-up version, And this is what it looks like once we've color-coded them. I'm going to do that again just because it's cool. So this is a great scientific application for something like this. This is a really wonderful way to monitor the growth of corals and to study them and their dynamics. But how cool is that? I mean, that's, like, I've looked at it for the past 6 months and I'm still blown away by it. And that was really what I wanted to find. I was looking at this and I was thinking, this can reach a broader audience. And so that's what I wanted to explore. And when I thought about it, I thought, well, who are the different user groups that this might impact? And what I ended up doing was I wanted to target the dive industry, because I wanted to find a user group that already had some connection with the ocean, thinking that if they're already somewhat connected, powerful images like this might mean something more to them, and it can take them a step closer to ocean awareness and stewardship. So I wanted to explore that and find a way for this technology to do that. I separated it into 2 different user groups, dive shop owners and dive tourists, because inevitably a shop owner and a customer are going to have different motivations. So I got to test this idea on the island of Curacao, which you heard a little bit about from Mickey as well. And I actually got to be a part of some of that data collection where we collected mosaic images from 9 different locations around the island. And that was a great process for me because it helped me understand it a little bit more. And one of the reasons that we went to Curacao is because, again, we've collected images from there, but also their dive industry is huge. They're known for their diving. They have some of the healthiest reefs in the Caribbean still. And the tourism industry has been expanding rapidly over the last 10 years. So with that, what I did with the different user groups, I showed them 2 versions of these photo mosaics. One was the video that I just played for you, and the other was the same 3D model, but instead of a video that plays on loop, what you have is that model, but the user has the ability to manipulate the image with 360-degree capabilities and the ability to zoom. So this version is much more interactive. And what I found through talking to shop owners, and this really comes as no surprise, was there's a big business mindset. What they wanted was, they found opportunity to have all of their dive sites, 3D videos of all of their dive sites, of the entire dive site, and they just wanted to be able to throw that up on their website and promote their shop. They didn't want to worry about heavy downloads or large files. They just wanted to use it for shop promotion. And if you're not familiar with the size of a dive site, it can easily be an area much larger than this room. But think about how much information it took just for the area of the wall behind me. So there were some challenges with that. And what I'm pointing out back from that timeline is that these 2 areas, it ended up being very time intensive, and it would be a lot of storage capacity on a computer, and we're just not there yet. So these were some challenges that within the time frame of my capstone, I couldn't quite pursue just yet. Within all that, however, I did also talk to the customers. What I wanted to know from them was, someone coming to dive at this site, how could technology like this enhance their experience? And could it eventually help them be more aware of the ocean and work towards more stewardship? And what I found from them was that they thought it would be really cool to virtually dive through their site after coming back from a dive and be able to click on a fish or click on a species of coral and be able to learn what it is that they saw. And I thought that was great because this essentially showed that there's interest there and they wanted to learn more. And those are just the beginning steps towards awareness and stewardship. But again, there were some of those same challenges. And there's one user group that I didn't quite mention yet, and that is the local community. It was a great opportunity being able to go around the island and talk to different user groups. And what I found was this local community was a great user group to target, and specifically the school kids. So Scripps Institution of Oceanography has a very close relationship with the Carabetta Foundation. Carabetta is the Caribbean Research and Management of Biodiversity Foundation. It's become one of the leading marine research centers in the Caribbean. In June of 2015, the governor of Curacao inaugurated the Carmody Marine Education Center into their program. As you heard from Mickey earlier, thousands of kids come through this program each year, so this was a really great opportunity. One of the things that's part of, it's part of a bigger education program that focuses specifically on schools for Curacao. And one of their large focuses is the marine life in the area, and specifically emphasizing the importance of coral reefs. So I had the opportunity to present information about the photomosaics to a group of high school kids that came through. And it was actually a really great experience, and two things stood out from that experience. What I went over with them was the objective of the photomosaics, how to collect them, and then the potential uses that could come of it, some of which is the marine drug discovery that Mickey spoke on before. So after this presentation, one kid raises his hand, and he was immediately interested, and he wanted to know, can you be a part of this process without having to scuba dive? Because I can't scuba dive. And I said, absolutely. There's this, large portion of this process that takes place on land. And so he was really excited about it. And there was another kid that had no idea there was more than 2 coral species that existed. So this was pretty exciting and a really great opportunity. So what I ended up doing, they asked me to create a presentation to then incorporate into their education curriculum. So the presentation that I've created for them goes into more detail about the photomosaics and explains to them a little bit more about how they can be involved. So all of a sudden there's this new way to use this imagery that I didn't quite think of before. And this was really exciting because now there's an opportunity for it to be used for education and outreach. So another really cool thing came from this. The high school group that came through was from the International School of Curacao. And as I just mentioned from those 2 examples, there was a lot of excitement, at least from the kids, but their teacher in particular was also really interested. So with the teacher, what we've done is we've come up with a way to incorporate these photomosaics into a lab exercise for these kids that focus on marine ecosystems. What they're going to get is essentially an ID guide that helps them learn how to ID the corals that I've created. And then Carmody, on their website, they have a great tool to help you identify the different coral species as well. So between these 2 products, what the kids are going to do is they're going to be broken up into groups, and they're going to learn to ID these corals, and then they're going to run a diversity index with each different site. So between these 5 different sites around the islands, they're going to be able to see how different are the coral species and the whole communities of coral throughout the island. And at that point, they're going to run a short research project where they can look into the environmental and human impacts around the island and see why it might be different. Both for Carmody and for the International School of Curacao, these are going to be incorporated into their school system starting in September. So I don't have information on it quite yet, but I'm excited to hear about it later. Check in with me if you want to know. So really, if I had to sum up this project in any way in particular, it would be that imagery really is powerful. It has value. And this imagery in particular has value. And that was good for me to find out because I had this idea and I got to explore it, and it wasn't just me being biased in a marine conservation program or being excited by it. It was really nice to know that outside of that community and outside of the scientific community that this can make an impact. So just with 2 weeks of talking to people and it being now incorporated into different school systems in Curacao, it gives me hope that there could be a greater impact if we were to spend more time and effort on it. And I have a lot of people to thank for that. Specifically, Stuart Sandin and Dr. Mark Vermey, who's down in Carmody as well. Also, Clint Edwards in the Sandin Lab, who very literally, without them, I could not have done this. And then a whole bunch of other people who I really owe a lot to, including the whole class and family and friends and support. And so, thank you, everyone.
mean, this is absolutely amazing. Do you think that there's a possibility of going back in 5 years or 10 years and resurveying and rephotographing the same site to be able to talk about change?
Absolutely, and I didn't touch on that, but that is something that we've been doing year to year, and that is actually the focus of Stuart Sandin's lab, is to take images year after year to monitor the change over time. And these kids, this can be ongoing. So this really was a way to introduce the kids to some local, ongoing, and accessible science. So that definitely is an application for it, and it's something that's happening and that we are still going to be doing. So yeah.